Yeah, it's a Saturday morning, and I'm actually just getting ready to run the engine for a little while here. You see, I'm sitting in the office now, and I've got it up on the screen here, and so I can monitor the shop and also monitor the engine at the same time. So we'll see how this goes.
So I didn't actually take any video of the engine running on the Saturday, but this is kind of where it was at for over an hour of running. And as you can see there, the temperature on the oil got to 214 degrees, and coolant was 194. And so it was actually running really well. Didn't have any problems at all. I ran it up pretty hard initially, kind of like as you would in a takeoff, and then sort of backed it off to sort of like 2450 RPM, and then ran it for a solid hour straight. And the coolant that I have in the 55, or the water I have in the 55-gallon drum that's running through the heat exchanger, was doing a pretty good job of keeping the temperatures down. And I probably could have ran it for quite a while longer still. Anyway, so after that, tried to run it again on Monday and ended up with an oil leak again, but I'll tell you more about that shortly. Yeah, so Monday, the first of these spa plugs got the putty sprayed on. Jeff was in there on Monday morning spraying that. And so here it's up on the machine Monday afternoon now, and just starting out with the short flat end mill there, starting out on the actual part that's going to make the spar itself. And so not too much difficulty in doing these ones, but still got to mill it. And here's Zach and Devon just starting to glass this plug that makes up the final lower part of the cowling that goes around the engine. And back on the machine, the first half of all the stuff with the flat end mill's been done, so now switch to the 3/8 inch ball mill and just doing a swarf cut on the sides there, so down in the bottom we end up with a nice radius where it meets the flange. And so the first half's done now, so I slid it down the table and starting on the second half, because this thing's about 16 feet long and the table's only 10 feet long, so you've got to do it in two passes. And now we're into Tuesday, and the one for the cowling has had the putty sprayed on, and so that one is now underway. And this one's a lot more tricky. There's a lot of different tool paths for it, and so I've got to pay attention when I'm setting it up to not mess it up. And here's that one from before, so that one's all finished now and just sort of sitting off to the side of the table, and that came out beautifully. Really doesn't need too much work on there at all. And here's the right hand door, and Jeff is carefully drilling the holes through from the front side there to the back side through the carbon layup that he did last week. So the hardware for those locks and that will be able to be fastened all the way through, and you'll see that in a later episode when we actually bolt the real locks in. But these are going to still get another layup put over the front of it, and again, just keep in mind this is just for the prototype. This is why these ended up being a bit of a fiasco. The design was just no good from when I started out, but anyway, we're persevering and we'll make it work for the prototype. And there you can see the holes drilled all the way through to the layups that he did on last week, on last Friday. And here the guys are in the process of glassing the main spar for the foreplane. So this one is a little bit larger than the one that you've just seen that came off the machine, but no more difficult to actually do in terms of glassing or even milling or whatever. So there, that's all finished there with a layer of peel ply on there. So that'll be Wednesday's job. That'll be getting the putty sprayed on there, and it'll be up on the machine. And by the end of this evening here, this was how this cowling one was looking. So still got a ways to go on that one, and then I'll be switching out and running some paths with two different ball mills to get it all finished tomorrow. And back on the engine, you might recall that I had to take a measurement off of our prop shaft in order to know exactly what clearance we're going to need for this new oil shuttle. So there I've taken the upper drive off there, and that's how it's going to be for a little while now. So this micrometer that I had purchased arrived today, and this allows us to get a super accurate measurement on the diameter of the shaft there. So as you can see here, I just basically put that in place there, and you tighten it sort of down just gently so it's fitting there, and then you can read the actual dimension off of the scale on the side there, and there's it's basically 2 inches long, and then adding another half an inch, and then another 50 thou on top of that, so it ended up being 2.5 624, I think was the dimension. And so now we know exactly what we need for the shuttle, and this is where the oil leak came from. This is the one that feeds it in there, and I just used this O-ring as a real quick fix, just to seal that shuttle off, and it kind of failed on me, and that's the way I ended up with a leak. So I'm not going to bother putting it back together until we get this new shuttle, and that's probably going to be a couple of weeks, so won't be able to run the engine, unfortunately, but I'm pretty happy with how it's running up till now. So that's our update for the first half of this week, and thanks again for watching.